Have you guys ever wondered which hero has the best inspiration in the game? Well, that's what I'm here to answer today, with the new limited hero coming in just 4 days, having some of the best inspiration in the game for what I have heard. I figured I would go over all of the main sources. So this is only going to be the legendaries and an epic or two, like Dolores. I'm not going to be including stuff like Narvi, Nunea, stuff like that, the rares and the heroes that are not relevant really. And I'm going to be going through putting them on a team with Yuri in a guild boss. I will be doing the entire run, grabbing the data, and then ordering them on a list. Make sure to like and subscribe. This video was a lot of work to put together. It was a lot of fun, and it would help the channel a ton. And let's get straight into it. To start off with number 8, we actually have Yuri on her own. This is Yuri with a Wings of Grace buff. So she gets about 12% extra attack. I figured I would do this as just kind of a baseline to go off of, show like the difference between the actual inspiration units later. The way I did this test is I basically just put Yuri down, then I put the inspiration unit, and I put Carnelian because, I mean, one unit can't break all of the shields, so they're going to get completely destroyed. And then I put down Vortex if there was no good healer, so that no one would actually die. And that's how I did the run. I just went through, I clicked the ultimates for Yuri and the inspiration unit at the same time if I could. If they were really slow, I tried to, mix it up a little bit to kind of give them a fair shot. But realistically, what's going to matter here is regen and also the potency of the inspiration as well. It's not a definitive, this is the truth type of test, but it gives you a kind of idea about how things work going forward. Yuri did about 26 million damage, 26.5 million damage. That is the baseline with no inspiration. Now we get to number 7, and number 7 is a pretty obvious one. If you saw the heroes that I was going to be using, you could probably guess. And number 7 is Ferssi. Ferssi is a good healer and support unit for Guild Boss 2, but his inspiration is really bad. He only increased Yuri's damage from about 26 million up to about 29 million. So it's like a 3 million increase. Really not much at all, if I'm going to be honest. And I was kind of disappointed, but also it was expected, right? So if you are going to be using an inspiration unit, Ferssi is negligible and shouldn't even be tried. Next up, we have number 6, and this one's going to catch a lot of people off guard. It's actually Beelzebub, also known as Bubba. He, interestingly, should be number 5 if we include his damage here, which was about 2 million on his own, and then he did about 31 million for Yuri, so a little bit more than Ferssi and Yuri with no inspiration. But I was kind of surprised that he didn't really help that much. I'm gonna be real. Number 6 spot, I mean, we'll see his A3 a bit further down the list, but unfortunately, despite him having a really cool range and being more of a unit than an inspiration unit, he kind of doesn't boost that much. Moving on though to number 5, we have Constance. Like I said, the margin is very, very small. So Constance is doing a little more than Beelzebub was, but Beelzebub with his damage actually is more than Constance overall for this test. Constance has the ability to be used with some of the best lords in the game, Ingrid and Praetus. So she does get a little higher if you do use her in a more practical scenario. But for this, she falls in at number 5. She did pretty good. I mean, 32 million for Yuri. It's a decent amount better, but I mean, she's number 5. Number 4 is going to catch a lot of people off guard that they aren't higher. Number 4 is Dolores. Dolores is the poster child for inspiration in this game, and she's an epic. So everyone has access to her pretty early on, and she's incredibly good. She was the only one with A5, and the gear I used had her with her exclusive, so exclusive gear taken into account there. She boosted Yuri up to almost 35 million, which is really, really good. And I was I mean, I was pleasantly appreciative of what Dolores does. She's amazing. Her main cons, though, are her range, though Infernal is a good faction for inspirationing, to be honest. I mean, it's not cr crazy good, but Dolores is the best epic in the game, and it's not close. She's not top 3. But who is top 3, breaking into the top 3, is Beelzebub A3. Beelzebub A3 boosted Yuri up to almost 36 million damage from her original 26 million, which is pretty good. He also did almost 4 million damage. So if you combine the two, we get pretty close to 40 million, but I'm not really fully counting that. I'm just using it as, you know, a little bit of a bonus. And Bubba was actually pretty good. Every time Yuri ulted, Bubba A3 was up immediately. I used Yuri a little bit because her basic attacks were pretty strong, but her ult's a bit stronger and her ult comes back really fast, so it was more on the rage regen of the inspiration unit. And Bubba A3 was right neck and neck with her the entire time, which is pretty cool. He ults quite often, but when you're using something like a Silas, for example, the A3 is functionally the same as the A0 in terms of rage regen, because Silas isn't going to be up fast enough for the A3. So that's a little bit of something there. You know, he has extra range. He's pretty good. I mean, Bubba A3 was pretty damn good, earns him a podium spot. And this one is going to be a little interesting. Number 2 is DiaoChan, the new limited hero coming. The thing with her is she doesn't have as high concentration of invig or inspiration compared to some of the other units on this list, but what she does have is 100% uptime, which is insane. So for burst damage, if you're using something like a Silas only and like a bunch of units that they ult once and then they do like no damage, she's gonna fall off a little bit more compared to a Dolores or a Bubba. But the thing is, a lot of the time for boss content, you're using things like Hex, you're using things like Wukong. Wukong ults constantly, Yuri ults constantly. Hex has the longest ult like ever at A3. So DiaoChan actually gets a leg up on these other units because of that, which is really, really cool. And for a lot of teams, she's going to be the best inspiration in the game, and it's not going to be close. And that's only half of her kit. She also heals and does a lot of buffing and stuff to keep you alive. She is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. Well worth going for, in my opinion. And her factions, her Watcher is the best faction for this sort of thing because it increases their attack, which then increases the amount of attack given to everyone else. DiaoChan really, really surprised me, but 100% uptime is pretty good. Also, her A1 increases her range to a very good point, so she's actually has a leg up over almost all of these units. So, coming into the number 1, this one's kind of not fully accurate. I know why it was like this, but it's not fully accurate. Number 1 is Doomi, which was kind of a shocker to me. I thought in my head, I was like, oh, Doomi's going to be the worst or second worst. But no, he actually has really good inspiration. So the one caveat to this is we're using him with 1 unit, 1 DPS. And I had it in range where he was only ever attacking her, giving her the inspiration. If you use a full team, he's going to drop all the way down to like 6 on the list. But I wanted to put this here anyways, even if it was an outlier, because I think that's really cool. This is why you see Doomi in some really weird like arena teams and stuff, because he actually has really good inspiration if he's only dealing with a few units. But of course, in more practical applications, he falls flat, in which case DiaoChan overall is going to be the best inspiration unit in the game, just for inspiration. Obviously, Dolores, Beelzebub are pretty close, and in some situations might be better. Like Beelzebub has a bunch of offensive capabilities and, you know, debuffs that he puts out and stuff, and Dolores is really attainable. But at the end of the day, I think DiaoChan is well worth going for, even just off of this. Of course, I need to test her healing phase and everything, but this was pretty insightful, and I'm glad I did this test. Now, if you were wondering about the gear, I tried to build everyone with, well, I built everyone with the same thing. I was just swapping the set around. I tried to make sure we had a bunch of attack as well as attack speed and rage regen. I know it's not the perfect gear, but this is definitely more catered towards Bubba. If I could build them a little bit better for like Dolores, DiaoChan, stuff like that, they would definitely do a little bit better. So keep that in mind. But this is what I did. I put Scarab on the healers, Cure of Twilight on Bubba, which was the only mage, and then the only tank I put Astral Obelisk on because her rage regen was so garbage I needed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Of course, once again, this is not the definitive, this is how it's going to be for every piece of content. It depends on what you as a player need or want on your roster. And I just figured I would do this just to get a little bit of insight into how each of these units work. So yeah, that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe if you would like. And Destined signing out.